into the underground caverns of Rand's old mining system. Daniel descended into the bustling markets, his senses overwhelmed by the vibrant chaos. Neon signs flickered in a multitude of languages, and the air was thick with the aromas of exotic foods and mechanical oil. Merchants shouted in a cacophony of dialects, their voices echoing off the carved stone walls. "Your supplies are in Section 8, his unit chirped, but he frowned at the mention of that section being restricted. The unit fell silent, likely caught in a conflict between information sharing and local regulations. As he pushed through the crowd, the legitimate stalls began to thin out, replaced by shadier establishments. The lighting dimmed, and the crowd shifted. Fewer civilians and more hooded figures with suspicious bulges hinting at concealed weapons. A muffled scream drew his attention down a narrow corridor. A heavy door stood ajar, revealing glimpses of what lay beyond. Daniel's scientific curiosity battled with his better judgment, but after a moment's hesitation, he slipped inside. What he saw froze him in place. Cages lined the walls, filled with beings from across the galaxy, a slave market. His stomach churned, but before he could retreat, something impossible caught his eye. In the furthest cage, barely visible in the dim light, sat a female figure with skin the color of deep ocean waters. Her eyes glowed with a light that pulsed like distant stars, a Halen, a member of the legendary Lost Civilization. "Interested in that one?" A gruff voice startled him. A corpulent merchant appeared beside him, a smile revealing gold-capped teeth. "Rare specimen, though defective." Daniel's scientific mind kicked into overdrive, momentarily overshadowing his horror. "Defective? No energy manipulation abilities? Useless for power generation?" The merchant shrugged. "Still, the exotic look alone makes her valuable to certain collectors." The Halen's eyes met Daniel's. Despite the heavy chains binding her and the metallic collar around her neck, her gaze held neither fear nor submission, only a calculating intelligence that seemed to pierce right through him. "How much?" he blurted out before he could stop himself. Minutes later, Daniel found himself leading his purchase through the back alleys of the market. The Halen moved with fluid grace despite her restraints, easily keeping pace. "I suppose I should introduce myself," he said awkwardly. "I'm Daniel Cross." "How formal," she replied, her voice carrying a musical lilt that danced between notes. "Does it make you feel better about buying a person, Doctor?" Daniel winced. "I'm trying to help." "Of course you are," her tone dripped with sarcasm. "My name is Ely, though I'm sure you'd prefer to call me Specimen or Subject. I would prefer to call you by your name." They reached his laboratory, and Daniel quickly ushered her inside. "I'm going to remove that collar." Ellie's glowing eyes widened slightly. "That would be unwise. According to your species, I'm a scientist. Being unwise is practically in the job description." He reached for the collar's complex locking mechanism. "Hold still." The moment the collar clicked open, the air in the laboratory crackled with invisible energy. Ellie took a deep breath, her luminescent eyes flaring brighter. "Freedom?" she whispered, then shot him a sharp look. "Though I'm still essentially your prisoner, aren't I?" "You're not my prisoner," Daniel said, deliberately turning his back to her as a show of trust. "You're free to leave, though I admit I hope you'll stay long enough to let me study your energy signature for purely scientific purposes." A musical laugh escaped her. "At least you're honest about your motivations." She moved closer, her bare feet silent on the metal floor. "And what would I get in return for being your research subject?" "Protection, resources, and maybe—" Daniel gestured to his equipment. "Help understanding why your abilities are different from others of your kind." "Different?" Ellie's voice turned bitter. "You mean defective." "I don't believe in defective people," Daniel replied firmly, "only in systems that fail to understand them." Ellie absently touched a broken console on his desk, and to Daniel's astonishment, the dead screen flickered to life, its circuits rebuilding themselves under her fingertips. "Well," she said with a hint of surprise, "that's new." Before Daniel could respond, every alarm in his laboratory began blaring at once. Energy readings spiked off the charts. "Interesting," Ely mused, studying the displays. "It seems I'm not so defective after all." Her eyes met his, a challenge in their glow. "Still want to study me, Doctor?" Daniel's reply was cut short by a priority alert flashing across his screen. A message from Rillian security forces requesting immediate information about any unusual energy signatures in his sector. He quickly deleted the alert.